Hello, everyone. We are back to our live stream. Today we have an outstanding guest with us. His name is Merle Heckman. He is an author of the very powerful book, which I found myself very useful for my daily routine business as a leader and as a manager of the department and safety professional as well. But actually, it's useful for all types of professionals and all the human beings because it's about people. This work calls why people work, but actually there are much more insights than that. So I highly recommend this book for everyone, and I want Merrill as well to share with us a bit about his book and how it all started. So over to you, Merrill.
Great. And thank you so much for this opportunity. Just get to talk with our other associates and friends across the world. Now, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine approached me and said, Merle, I have an idea for a book. I'd like to share it with you. And then would you consider helping me? We'll co-author it together. So his idea was this. He said, I'd like to write about the reasons why people work, and not just what the surface looks like, but the hidden expectations that people have. And he said, in my work career, I actually put this to the test to see it would work. So this was the basis, the foundation of the book. He had worked for a company in the United States called Capgemini, and his role was he was the leader of 40 IT technicians. And these technicians would go across the United States, perhaps even the world, and be hired out to take care of IT issues. One of the greatest challenges, though, is to keep those people as your employees. So it's real easy for people to go out and work in other companies. Folks say, hey, you're a good worker. Would you like to come work for us? So my friend Ursel was given the challenge. He said, you'll receive a bonus this year based on if you can keep all 40 people and not have any of them leave. So there was some incentive there.
Okay.
So what Ursel did was he looked over his people and he said, what are the reasons why these people come to work? And he came up with 6 reasons, which is the essence of the book. Now, we named them, all of them, to begin with the letter R, and that would help make it with the alliteration. But I'll mention them quickly, and then we can go into even how this all applies to safety. But he said, first of all, people do need a reward. We have to have some money. We have to have some revenue come in because we work to pay the bills. And there's truth to that. As a matter of fact, we would say that if you ask the average manager, why are your people coming to work? Most of them will say, well, they need a paycheck. True. Except there are more things that people want from us. They want us to provide in the workplace. Certainly reward, but here are other essentials. People want to have a relationship. They want to have relationships with coworkers. They want to be able to connect with them. They want their boss or their leader to have a relationship with them too. And when we say that, we are not saying you need to be the best of buddies. We're not saying you ought to go out and drink beer on Friday night together. But we are saying we need to call them by name. We need to have a bit of comment with them and just find out about them as a human being. Relationship. Another one, people want respect. No worker wants to be talked down to. No worker wants to be thought of as, oh, you're just a worker. They want respect. Another thing they want is they want recognition. They want acknowledgement when they've done something good. Another one is people want responsibility. We like it when people entrust us and say, That's your machine. That's your project. Would you like to take this responsibility on? And the last one, we called it the word reverence. And the idea is we are all wired uniquely as human beings. And when we can have the chance to do the work that fits with the way that we are wired, that's the spirit of reverence, and we work better in that way. And
Yeah,
what's
such
interesting is after
a
that whole year, and he watched every month, he kept a checklist. What is important to this person? And then he worked every month and kept notes. Did I work to address that? At the end of the whole year, he did not lose one employee. They stayed. Some of them were offered a great deal of more money to leave, but their comment to him was, why would I want to leave? Because you've done so many things to make me fulfilled as a person here in the workplace. So that's the essence of what the book was about.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us some short notes about the main context, and as well about at least three main reasons why people work rather than the paycheck. Three other reasons I think people need to read your book to know more about them. What as well I really like about your book, that it's not just about the theory, it's based on the life stories, it's based as well on some proper experience and real life changing mindset techniques, and also the advices which you're sharing there, which are actually hands-on. You can just start to implement them immediately after you actually as far as you find something useful for your specific case. So, but what I want to do today is, as you have an experience about safety field as well, and you've designed as well a program for leadership and for Emerson about safety, and I want to dive with you to dive a bit in a different direction and to flip your title. And I would like to ask and start with the questions. Why actually people work safely and why people work unsafely. So if we will start with the very beginning, at the very beginning with the things why people work unsafely, how do leaders accidentally incentivize people to work unsafely without even recognizing they're doing it? So what do you think about that?
Um, and I've had my experiences are in working with safety. I worked 14 years in manufacturing with the large manufacturing company, global company, Emerson Electric. And then also had worked 8.5 years in transportation and logistics, working with truck drivers, dock workers, and everybody that was involved in that logistical supply chain process. Yes, wanted to be unsafe. I don't think that's a natural thing. But the question is, do we as a leader, do we as a person guiding other people, do we have some amount of influence on the person's choices of making safe actions? I think that's what we have to do. Now, again, I'm a person that believes everybody has their individual responsibility. I make the choice of what I want to do. But leaders and those who are above us, with their words, their tones, their actions, they have so much influence on us. There are times that, why do people do unsafe things? Sometimes they see in leadership what we is important to us. You may have heard the term before. What we praise, people will repeat. What we highlight, people will duplicate. There is no leader among us that's listening to this, and I think that's a great question. I will address that about how you deal with stubborn people, and there are a few of those. But there is no person, no matter how stubborn they are, that if they are watching what we as a leader highlight, they're watching what's important to us. It's not enough just to say, be safe, that's important.
Yeah.
They want to know, what am I highlighting? What do I notice? Oh, you worked real fast. Oh, you got the job done when we were under the pressure. If that's the only thing we highlight, if that's the only thing we give recognition to, they may say, well, this is what the boss wants. This is what they want. So recognition is important, but we have to recognize and notice, I saw you took a moment to make sure you did that safely. I saw you took a moment to make sure that guard was in place. I know you were in a hurry and we had to get this done, but I noticed how cautious you were. Or one more, I noticed how you watched out for your fellow coworker. So that's why do people work unsafely? I think it's because they look at what's important to us and try to emulate that.
Yeah, so when we as leaders give them the wrong flags, which orient them to unsafe behavior or push them towards unsafe choices, right? And also the feedback and motivation which we gave to them, right? Because we all want to be praised, as you said. We are still like a kids. We want to be good for someone, and we are looking for recognition. We're looking for the praise, and we want to meet the expectations of other people. So this is, I think, very important. And this is what I call actually a green pen method. Like, in the school, at least in country where I'm originally from, teachers used to, they usually use the red pen to highlight the mistakes which kids do. But if you, this is what I call a green pen method. So if you highlight what kids are doing right in their efforts, in their tries, this is where they actually trying to copy this experience. They try to meet the same expectations which were highlighted that they did good. So I think that it's a good advice as well to all the leaders to focus on the good things, so we can emphasize people, we can engage them, we can empower them to do the right things, so we can shape the right behavior, right? Not just focusing on the production or business KPIs, but as well, this is what's shaping how they made the right safety choices, right?
And this is where a good test for us as a leader is to keep in track of how many times do I go out and scold people or get after them for something that's not been done right. And I know that needs to be done. I'm not saying we don't do that. How many times do we do that compared to the times that we recognize when they have done the right thing, and to let them know. Now, I've heard this in work environments, even in raising children. The idea is the ratio should be 5 comments of acknowledgement of right and good to the 1 correction.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you ever had a boss that all they did was just scold you. All they did was just point out all you did that was wrong. I talked to someone this past week that said, I had a boss every Monday morning, 8:00, the phone would ring and the boss would tell me all the bad things I did last week that weren't right and proper. And he said it got real stale, it got real old. But when we are noticing what is right, then the people say, oh, this is what the person wants. And when we do have to correct, we do it respectfully, when we do have to correct, it will have more power to it than if we just only correct. And Ahmed, you're right. We lead by example. But let's just be clear. It's not just what we do, it's the intentionality that we have to say, this person, this is important to this person. Recognition and respect. That's not just living it, but that's acting it out in reality.
Yeah, but that's a very interesting point which you mentioned about the KPIs as well. So, how much, in your opinion, and if there is any criteria like this actually exist, and it's fair to put it this way, of working unsafely is actually a symptom of a deeper breakdown in leadership and psychological safety. Is there any kind of a bar or cross line where we can think like, okay, we need to do something about the leadership, and it's not just about the cases of unsafe acts and behavior?
Here's the trap that it's easy for people in leadership to have. The trap is, oh, my workers don't do good. My workers have a terrible attitude. My workers cut the corners and don't make sure they're safe. If you and I have been in roles of leadership for a space of time, it's really easy to blame the people or the person. What's wrong with them? What's wrong with that group of people? When in reality, they are merely a reflection of us. And we have to take some responsibility. And what the book is all about is creating a psychological safe environment. And that is helping people to, I'm a huge believer in aiming toward the want to of a person and not just a have to. I think it would do all of us well to take time to study and look at psychological safety. And the reality is, psychological safety in an environment is the invisible PPE because
Okay.
it is what helps people to want to be alert to being safe and take care of themselves and take care of the people around them. So we have to stop the blame game. And I just like to mention this about stubborn people. And Muhammad, I have encountered stubborn people. I don't really like it, but but they're human beings, and they're human beings that have good minds, and sometimes they are stubborn because leadership has been inconsistent in the past, and they sense that and they acknowledge it. Sometimes it's been the bosses before us. And that's where we have to earn their respect. We have to earn their respect to treat them like a man, a woman, a person, to earn and not just demand. Perhaps
Yeah,
longer than
absolutely.
one. I believe that's true.
I also think that psychological safety may be a bit misunderstood still across the business. It's not just about the mindset of people or how they feel mentally. It's about the climate within the organization which we design, which we create for them. It's about the trust. It's about actually providing them the right support to fail safely, to build the connection and partnership and relationship which you talked about in your book as well, so you can work together towards addressing any kind of challenges you go through and support each other in the right manner so everyone just win from the partnership, right?
Now, that's an interesting statement there, that we are partners together. I believe in respecting authority. I'm all for that. I'm not sure I'm all the biggest advocate of the word boss, because this is another human being. They are somebody's son. They are somebody's daughter. The people that work for us, they are a human being created in a marvelous way. And I don't want to come across with, I'm your boss. Do what I say. We are partnering together. We are, yeah, I have some responsibilities. You have some responsibilities. But my goal is not to lord or boss over of an employee. To have a conversation, to have that discussion, that's respect. And that's an important way to approach things. It really is. Because when I look at I make myself, I'm your boss. most people that grinds them on the inside. It aggravates them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think it's really important, and sometimes it's really missed. This small talks, these conversations about checking, this building of trust and connection, which is really important at work for sure. If we talk about your as well, actually the trainer and the coach in the Dale Carnegie Center. So if we talk about as well his approach and his book and his principles, and also you're talking a lot about this in your book. What are underlying human needs from Dale Carnegie perspective, like recognition or belonging, that actually drive a worker to instantly choose the safe behavior when supervisors are not around?
The concept that's in from Dale Carnegie, the central theme is the power of relationships with another person.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie had 30 human relations principles in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. 30 principles, ideas, concepts about working with other people. And of those 30, half of them use the phrase, the other person. Show respect to the other person's opinion. Become genuinely interested in the other person. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. So one of the great ideas of leadership and to fit in with why people work is when we approach this, that my goal, my purpose as a leader is not just I'm the boss, do what I say, I command you. Oh no. My focus is to be on the other person. How can I be of a help to the other person? How can I build the other person? And I'm afraid we forget that at times, which then trickles down to their attitude toward the work and trickles down toward their attitude into the safe practices that we propose. I believe this, here's an important statement. Rules without relationships turn into restrictions with resistance. And so think about that. If we have rules and we have not built a healthy relationships with people, when you have that, those rules now can be looked at as people as restrictions. It's like I'm in a prison and I got these prison cell and these bars, keeping me. It's like I'm looking at this stuff as I don't like this. Rules without relationships become restrictions with resistance.
Yeah, and it's actually a very powerful phrase. And I think as well, this is where leaders quite frequently captured in the trap of compliancy and more control, which doesn't help. But this where these deviations start to happen, right? About work is imagined, work is done, lack of trust, poor support. And that's how it all again start to fall apart, right? About the safety behavior.
Yes. And now there was a U.S. president by the name of Dwight Eisenhower. He had been a military leader, so he was used to military life, and he was a high-ranking military leader. And he made a wonderful statement about leadership. He said, leadership is the art of getting someone else to do what you want done because they want to do it. And that should be our goal. It doesn't happen immediately. It doesn't always happen easily. But the goal, and that's the whole essence of why people work. How can we conduct ourselves in such a way? How can we lead in such a way that our people that work with us will say, I choose to do that. I want to do that more than I have to do that. That's a big difference, because we've all
Absolutely.
seen those people, haven't we? That yeah, you have. Yeah, I got to do it. I have to do it. Yeah. But when we want to, but that's our goal that we're aiming for.
Yeah, and this is very, I think, very hard stage to achieve, right? When people actually want to do, not because you're asking to, but because they wanted to do as well. So they support and they see the level of efforts which you put into your relationship, building trust, building, giving them the capacity and support, and as well shift from the blame into actually providing them all their hidden expectations, right? That's a good point where we can flip the coin to why people work safely, and you as well have started to cover this part. So what do you think about the hidden expectations must be met for an employee to feel empowered to work safely, especially when doing safe is might slow down the production and this kind of maybe shift missed by the leaders about the compliance driven part?
If we are not careful, we are very good, or we have a habit. It's not a good habit of just saying, "Do this, make this happen. This is how you need to do it," and that again grinds people on the inside. You have to. And I was very fortunate. I grew up in a household with a mother who had some really good sayings and quotes. And I didn't like them real well when I was little, but now they make a lot of sense to me. And she had one, she'd say, "A person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still." So if I force you to do something, you'll do it while I'm there or I'm around, but it's not necessarily the choice of your will. So if you're a person who's forced to do something against their will, keeps the opinion. So you say, "Well, what's that mean, Merle? I can't tell people what, I can't tell them to stop that. They're not being safe." What it means comes back to respect, the power of a conversation. There's a book written called Humble Inquiry. And the whole idea of it is, when you see someone doing something that's not right, that's not proper, rather than going up and saying, "What are you doing? Stop doing that," to engage in a conversation. "I see you doing that. Could you, it doesn't look real safe to me. Can you tell me a little bit about it and explain to me what's going on?" Or it can be this conversation where we just inquire, "What do you think is the best way for us to be safe here?" Or "How would you?" That's so much more powerful than just telling people what to do. And then one other aspect, going to adult people and explain to them why we see this to be important. Nobody wants to just do an order. Taking the time, but it takes time. It takes time to do that. And we say, "Well, we're real busy," and we are, but you either pay it now or you pay it later. You take the time to explain and give reasons and work with people on it. Or if you just bark your orders, yeah, you said it, but then you have to deal with repercussions and resistance later on. So again,
Yeah,
it's the ability to talk with them.
and also about efforts to understand a different person, right? And this is as well comes, I think, in line with the most hard skill to listen, right? It's not just about giving the orders or just asking people to do something for you, but as well the ability to listen and understand and hear the different person. So this is where the most tricky part comes in, right? If
I would like to say this. Sometimes what we're talking about, people will call them soft skills. Do you do that in your country? People call it soft skills. It's very common here in the United States. And I used to tell the people that I worked with, I said, these abilities to guide and influence, they are not soft skills, they are essential skills. And I would then teasingly say, if you do not approach it in these ways that we're suggesting to show respect, appreciation, honor, then they will be essential, because I will become essential to you to kind of mop up your mess and to clean up the hard feelings and the like. So they are essential skills to guide folks. And that's has to be the heart of each one of us that lead other in safety. One of the
Yeah, I
thoughts.
really like how you frame it as essential skills, because I think it went back to the main point about it is not just the leadership, but to be a better human being, right? So we interact better with each other. We become a better person, not just at work, but overall in our life, because all of those skills, they are transferable. They are not just applicable for a work environment. We can use the same skills to be a better friend, a better parent, better relatives, and just be kind with other people using the same kind of essential skills as you said, right?
You have a 1-year-old child, and I have 7 children that are all now grown, some 45 years old down to 27 years old. All right. And all these things we're talking about really worked well in raising young people, especially teenagers, because nobody likes to be scolded and told what to do. But we have to address things. But when we address in the way of a conversation and not a command, it is so much better. And they will receive, they may not like it, but they will receive it better when we speak to them. And there's one other thought you said I think is worth considering. Think of this. When you tell somebody to do something or you point something out to them, and sometimes people will say, "You're right. Yeah, you're right." But oftentimes that's just said to us to get rid of us and to get us off their back. But when someone will say, "Oh, that's right. That's right," there's a huge difference between "you're right" and "that's right," because they are closer to acknowledging that truth or idea on their own, rather than just to get rid of us and have to stop bothering them.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing. And let's capture maybe one more point about the Dale Carnegie core
Mm-hmm.
pillars, about the giving honest and sincere appreciation. Yet in traditional safety field, we usually only talk to workers when they violate the rules. So how does actively appreciating people for working safely change the psychological dynamic on a high risk jobs?
That's an excellent question. If the only time we talk to people is when they've done something wrong, first of all, once they see us walking toward them, they will dread. They'll say, "Uh-oh, Merle's here to give me a hard time." In my experience in working in manufacturing, in my experience working with truck drivers and dock workers, I work to get out of the office and go out and talk with the people. And when I said talk to the people, talk to them about their lives, not just the work. Now, again, if people are busy running a machine, I'm not saying you pull them away from that. But there's always some downtime. And just having a conversation more than, "Oh, how was your weekend? How was it?" That's nice, but there's more to it. You could talk to people in general. I used to walk among the employees and I'd say, "Well, you got any plans this evening?" And somebody would say, "Yeah, I'm going to go watch my my grandson play baseball or go watch him play football. All right. And so the next day, I'm going to swing by and just talk to him and say, hey, how'd that little guy do yesterday? How'd the game go? I'm not doing it to get them to do something for me. I'm doing it because I'm expressing genuine interest in them. And when people can tell that we are genuinely interested in them, they will be more likely to listen to what we have to say. Oh, here's another big one too. Taking time to listen to what people say. We go out and even ask their opinion. What are you seeing about this process as far as the safety aspects of it? What do you see? And then how we listen to somebody will make a huge difference. Because if we will listen to them respectfully, they will listen to us. If we don't show respect to them, ignore them, or are diverted, they will be ignored and they will ignore us and be diverted when we talk. So it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. Yeah. Excuse me. And for every one of our safety professionals here, you and I need to learn to be a human being expert, a people expert. You say, Merle, I want to just teach them about the rules. I just want to teach them about what to do. They want to know, and you need to know them as a human being. And that goes back to why people work. The guy that had the idea said, I'm going to know my people. Does this person need recognition? What's most important to them? Do they need responsibility? Are they looking to have more responsibility? What's important to them? And so the person that's a good safety person has to be a human being and person expert, which is
absolutely. And actually, I think it's a shift which happening right now across the professional field overall, and that's the right direction where we go. We start to shift our focus from compliancy towards the actual. We're trying now to build the systems around people. We try to engage them. We try to use their experience, their knowledge. We try to implement and work together hand in hand. And this is what I always saying as well, that especially for new comers in our profession, that safety is not about the rules and requirements. It's just one part of it, but it's about hearts and minds. You always we're caring about people with a purpose, and there are much more things happening on the background. It's not just about caring about them as workers, but it's about helping them and supporting them through their work challenges and sometimes life challenges as well. And this is where this kind of essential skills which you were talking before to be a better human being is absolutely critical, because in other case there will be no game about it, right? No wins about safety. So yeah, thank you so much for highlighting this. I really like that more people now care about this part of the profession.
You know, there was a statement that Dale Carnegie made in his book about public speaking that really fits with this. He said, it's better to be a good person than a good speaker. Because there's a lot of people that can speak really well in front of groups of people, but when you get around them as a person, you say, I don't know. And I would suggest for our listeners here, it's better to be, for you and I to choose to be a good person, respectful, caring. I'll use the bold word, loving of people, than just, I got all the safety guidelines down. And look at this organization. Because I believe too, our people are watchful. Are we more interested in our numbers looking good so we can show the upper management and we can say to other people, oh, look at how safe we are. Are we more interested in that? Or are we more interested in the human beings that work for us? And I can assure you, people are watching us closely and trying to determine that.
Absolutely. Yeah. While we coming to other questions, I really want to engage our audience. So, guys, you have a wonderful opportunity to ask your questions. Merle will be happy to share his experience, I believe, with us about uh, human beings, about behavior, about safety advices, because he has a huge background about safety as well. And he also is a great trainer and coach from Dale Carnegie Center. So please ask your questions so you can have a great advice from him how you can improve being a better leader as well, a better human being, a better safety professional, or anything from this kind of fields, which is very useful as well for the personal life, actually.
Mm.
So and now I want actually to come to the stage where we need to bridge the gap between people working unsafely and people working safely. So if safety managers or executives looking at their team today and trying to tip the scale from working unsafely towards working safely, what is the very first shift they need to make with their team members?
There is a simple art, by the way, our use of words as a leader is very important. I think one example of this is when people say safety is our top priority, safety is our number one priority, or safety first. Now that sounds really good. It is not always accurate because I live in a world where I have some certain priorities, but I come in some mornings and I have a plan all lined out, and all of a sudden something comes up and I've got to rearrange the priorities of the day. So, a different approach, and perhaps you've heard this before, but to look at safety as a value, not just a priority. And when we say safety first, it's our top priority, the people say, yeah, yeah, yeah. But if it's a value that we live out, just like ethical, honesty, integrity is a value, and it's woven in everything we do, that's one way to look at it differently. Another thing that I would suggest we do is if we believe if we're not being safe, if a particular individual isn't being safe, if we just see these trends as a group that we're not safe, going to some people, going to the person, for example, and just calling them by name, getting them in private and say, could we talk about this? I'm not sure that we're seeing you really conduct things safely, or you're doing something that doesn't look it's safe. Let's talk about this. Tell me a little more why you're doing it this way. And there's something about willing to have a one-on-one approach to people I believe is important. It takes courage. It's not always easy. But if we want to address it, we're going to go back to that people want responsibility, they want respect, they want recognition. The power of a one-on-one conversation makes a huge difference. Sometimes they know some things we don't know, and that would be good education for us to learn from them. But we also have the opportunity to tell how we see things. And so that's what big people do. They have conversations, they just don't bark out orders to them.
Yeah, such a great perspective and advice, actually. And I truly believe that this is quite frequently a bit of a threat for leaders and kind of a scary step for them, but genuinely curiosity and openness and as well these conversations, they actually can bring much more things on the table, even though people sometimes scared to look unprofessional, that they don't know something or why they need to know more details. But actually it gives so much value to people, to the team members, because they feel more valuable. They feel more engaged, and they feel that they can support you with something from their perspective, and it's completely a game changer, right? So they start to contribute more personal efforts, and as well sharing more insights, and that's a good perspective where the business can win lots of new data, new reasons to care about people, to change their maybe business strategy, to change their priorities, as well as the really great insights about how the work is done in the fields, right? So lots of things might be hidden there because of lack of the trust and curiosity from the leaders, but that's a great source of engaging conversation, which builds the right track for the proper relationship as well.
And this would be a topic for a whole nother time to really build it. But I
Yeah.
learned once what we called a 5-step process, because I used to be extremely nervous about going to confront somebody and talk to them. It just scared me. And what I usually got into the wrong way is, I'll just pick a name. Bill, you did this wrong. Why are you doing that, Bill? And Bill, you have to do it right. And then Bill would start to argue with me. And then I'd argue back. And we'd go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And eventually he'd usually say, all right, you're right. And he'd go out like we talked about, and he'd keep doing his thing. And then I learned a better way to do it. To talk to and say, Bill, we need to have a conversation. We need to talk for a few minutes and get along with Bill and say, Bill, I noticed that this action is taking place. It doesn't appear to be safe. It looks like it could get you hurt. And then use this phrase. Could you help me understand what your thought process is, why you're doing it, what's happening there? And say it very respectfully and curiously and openly, and let the person talk it through with you. And that's a whole different discussion we could have sometime. But I learned I didn't have to go just confront and said, stop doing that. But we start a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I see the question came up in the chat. How do I earn the trust of workers regarding safety? There's a title of a book that is really good. It says, why should anybody follow you? Who it's, that's a piercing question for me as a human being. You're a leader. You have a top. So in other words, I have to be the right person on the inside. And I build trust by earning it. It is not that anybody owes me their trust. I must earn it through my words, my actions, my conversations, the way I approach them. And some people will want to watch if we're being consistent or not. And that's where it's very important to approach it that way. And there are other people that, like you said, dissatisfaction toward safety. I have learned to go talk to individuals and just say, hey, I understand there are some differences. I understand there are some dissatisfactions here. Help me understand. Tell me a little bit about them. I'd like to hear them. And with respect, listen. And let's bring it to the open, not just I guess what you're thinking, you guess what I'm thinking. Let's have courage to have conversations and talk with man to man, man to woman, woman to woman. Let's have conversations and talk
Yeah,
things through.
sometimes it might be a bit of uncomfortable, I think, especially for the leaders, right? Because you might discover something what you don't like, because you might didn't provided them the right support, or you didn't provided them the right, I don't know, tools or whatever it might be. But what I strongly believe, that no one comes like wakes up in the morning with the mind, with the thought in mind, oh, today I will hurt myself or someone else. I will violate this rule today for certain. And actually, people perform doing the wrong choices, taking the right choices and safe behavior, um, for a reason, not for the purpose. So I strongly believe that actually everyone is trying to do the best they can in these particular situations. They always have the reasons why they're taking the sections. And this is where maybe we as a leaders need to really have this courage to ask the questions and understand what specifically went wrong, where we failed maybe as a leaders sometimes, or the environment we've designed to them, so we can support them and give the right environment, change it so they can have an opportunity to take the better decisions, better choices.
And a great principle that comes out of How to Win Friends and Influence People is the principle says, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. There are times that as leaders, we think, well, if I admit I'm wrong, I will lose credibility. If we do not admit an obvious error, we will lose credibility. People will
Absolutely.
respect us if we say, I misunderstood that. I misinterpreted it. I was wrong. We need to make an adjustment. That will they'll benefit. They'll respect you more. You'll earn their trust more by doing that.
Yeah. Our vulnerability and also the ability to admit our mistakes, or the way that actually we can't know everything as well, right? But we give other people opportunity to bring their value, and as well that builds more trust and better connections between people, right? Because we're all different. We have different experience. We interact in a different way, and we look from a different perspectives. But it doesn't mean that some of us might be always right or always wrong, or it's just two different perspectives might be as well, right? So but you need to have a courage to accept, to admit this, and be brave enough to talk with people about that, right? Especially in big organizations, and if the level of the hierarchy, sometimes too important for some individuals.
Sometimes people will say, well, Merle, the problem is the people who are above me, the higher up leadership. That's the problem. Now, I believe that's a whole nother discussion too, having influence when you do not have authority. That's a whole different discussion. But this whole idea is within the realm, within the span of human beings that I get to have responsibility over, I work to have the influence, the proper influence with those people. And Wilson said it well there in the chat. He said, human factors play a huge role, a critical role in this. Who we are as a person affects other people. I ran across a statement of a person who said this back in 1947. He was talking about workplaces and influencing people. And what he said was something like this. You can buy a person's time. You can buy their physical presence in the place. You can buy and regulate the number of motions, actions they do during the day. But you cannot buy their enthusiasm. You cannot buy their initiative. You cannot buy their loyalty or their devotion. You can't buy that. We earn it day by day, statement by statement, moment by moment, word by word. And that's why this whole idea, why are these people here working? What are things that are important to them? That approach will really help every one of us as we're thinking about leading folks and guiding them. We will not always be right, but they need to see us as a safety leader who's genuine, whose most important interest is not just in the numbers that they can report and get the pat on the back, but the actions that our people do that are right and proper, and to praise them for them and to highlight them. That's a huge
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You absolutely. I really like how you frame it about all these efforts which we need to put about that, and things which you can't just buy or yeah, expect from people just as a default option. You actually earning this very critical efforts from them as a part of the conversation and interactions as well. So
Yes.
if we could retitle a special edition of your book, and it had to answer just one of two of these questions: why people work safely or why people work unsafely, which one do you think corporate leaders need to understand more right now?
I would lean, if I had to choose between those two titles, I would choose why people work safely. Because I believe when we take time to look internally with our folks and understand what guides them to be safe, I think that's the much better way to go than just only focusing on the negative and the corrective action. But perhaps in that vein, the real title is, what do I need to be as a leader to help my people choose safety? Because
Yeah,
I
that's a
believe in this, what do I need to be? And I believe in this, there's a thought process of, we have to be the person we need to be, so we do the thing we need to do, so we get the result that we want. So it all starts with me as a leader. Who do I need to be so that the actions come out of me and the results will come as a result of that?
Yeah, that sounds really great. And I think it's as well really resonates with what we were talking before about praising the good things, right? And as well shaping the right behavior with the good examples rather than always finger pointing to the bad points. So people can duplicate you. When you praise, you will, get duplicated, right? So that's a good opportunity as well to shape a good advices and good practices with leaders.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the questions which we have, and after that, I think we can wrap our today's session. Um, one of my team members saying that I'm implementing most of the things in your which you said.
Yeah.
So it means that I read the book, and yes,
Good for you.
I definitely did. Um, uh, the record, yes, there will be a record of this event on the LinkedIn, and as well we have a small YouTube channel where as well this record will be available soon. One of your students as well attending this session, Alexis Lona. So she's saying that you're her professor. That's nice that the new generations as well joining these important conversations right now. Once again, Merle, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your valuable advices. That's really a great pleasure. I'm happy that we had this session today. I think more and more people should know about the different perspective and focus on human beings, as well, develop their essential skills, also listening skills, as you wrote in your book. Lots of people taking the public speaking skills, the training sessions, right? But very rare people actually enrolled into any courses about listening. And this is very important as well. And you can't just, it's not so easy as it might sound like, right?
Well, because I really like to hear myself talk, and I think the world revolves around me sometimes. And now to have to listen to another person who's trying to talk about them, I'd rather it be about me. And that's the attitude that really hurts us. We give our
Yeah.
attention to, we need to give our attention to the other person. And I'll just say this as we're wrapping up. I know the folks here who are listening are people, first of all, they care enough to want to grow. That's why they came to listen to this. And they're working very hard in their labors, in their efforts to lead people. And I just would encourage every one of you that your actions are being watched and noticed. And sometimes when you don't know if you're getting anywhere, you are probably having more influence than you can imagine. And so take time to talk to your people, focus on them, let them know they are more important than your numbers for safety. And that will greatly reward you in the work.
Absolutely. We care about people, not about our dashboards, right? If your dashboard is green, but people still hurting themselves, but they don't speak up about it, what's the reason for your, what's the value for your safety, right? So for sure, that's really most important part of that. So I really highly recommend to anyone, HR professionals as well as business leaders, safety professionals, everyone, to read the book Why People Work. You will get lots of insights there, and as well lots of very useful advices about how you actually can implement some of the principles. As well, Dale Carnegie book about how to influence people and win friends is also very useful. And I'm sure that if you will try to implement some of those things which Merle sharing in his book, and as well you will have a look from a different perspective, everyone will win, not just employees, as well employers, organizations, yourself as a human being, as a person. And there are lots of things which actually have much more impact and effects about who we are and who we can become, right? So I really engage everyone to have a look, and it's wonderful reading. So share your thoughts after that. And thank you so much, Merle, for your time. Really appreciate it, even though I know it's an early morning in your country. You are based in US, but thank you so much. I think that was a very important conversation today.
Thank you for the privilege to get to share with these folks. Yes, indeed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, then we are ending our stream. All the records will be available in LinkedIn and as well on the YouTube channel. I will announce and share the link as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and joining our conversation. Have a good weekend and see you next time. I don't think we have any other questions. If anyone else have a questions, please drop it in the comments. If not, then we will finish our session for today. But all the comments which people are giving are valuable about the critical factors of the human factors, critical role of the human factors, and as well about psychological safety. And yeah,